Hello, we're here today with Sam Ford, Director of Audience Engagement at Peppercomm and co-author of Spreadable Media, Creating Value and Meaning in the Network Culture. Thank you very much for being here today, Sam.
Thanks for having me, Mark. Look forward to the conversation.
Right now, I mean, in the trenches day to day with regards to innovation, what's going on in your world right now? That project or the next big thing, what is it with you right now?
This is a space that's changing dramatically. When I started asking these questions, in the online space, for instance, there was no such thing as Twitter, and the blogosphere was new, and social network sites were a pretty new thing. The idea of being able to share video online was relatively new as well. And a lot's changed in the course of the last decade, and yet I feel like the core questions I'm asking and what I'm focused on remain pretty consistent. One of the big projects we're working on is trying to help individual professionals, companies think about the story they're telling, whether or not they're trying to tell a story, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So I work with a lot of individual professionals, often very high-profile executives and experts in their field who haven't given much time to what the public record of their area of expertise is.
The story.
So one of the most interesting things you can do is to ask that person, look themselves up online. If you were a journalist who hadn't met you yet, or a potential client, or a potential investor, or a potential recruit who wants to know what the leadership of the company they might go to work for thinks about, does, etc., what's the results that they would see? And for many people, it's not necessarily reflective of who they are, their passion, their expertise, and trying to help people think about how to more proactively manage that. And that has been very rewarding work, because often you have people who have that passion and have very authentic and good stories to tell, but those are stories that aren't being told. And being able to work with them to understand the ways appropriate to their personality, the public they're trying to reach, that would be a meaningful way to engage. And often, and this is tough for the marketing and communication space, realizing that the way to engage and to show that might not necessarily be talking about your company and the products and services that you have to offer, which is what most companies do, and often many executives are expecting to do. And it's rather talking about the issues your audience cares about and showing people rather than telling people you're an expert. That's what I think is tough about the good old corporate bio, right? This person has 20 years of experience in the field, and look at all these awesome things they've done. But if I look at an article that executive has written, or what they tweet about, or what they say and share, then often that shows me rather than tells me what they know and what they care about and what they're focused on. And I think that matters a lot in terms of trying to help make companies more human.
So how has that been? Have you found they've been pretty accepting of what you just mentioned? It's not a corporate bio, it's not a pitch. I mean, how has that? They've been pretty receptive to that?
People are very receptive when, if they take the time to sit down and, again, empathize, put themselves in the shoes of those various people they're trying to reach, and think about what their company looks like from the outside in, or what they themselves as a professional would look like from the outside in. Sometimes we do it sort of selfishly. We're trying to pitch your company, and we can do our part and get you on a journalist's radar, but any journalist worth their salt, the first thing they're going to do is look you up. Here's what they find. And they're on deadline, and they can only interview one executive to provide expertise for the story they're writing. And sometimes it's helping an executive understand why it might not be you, and why it's hard for us as your, in this example I'm using as their media relations firm, to be able to do anything to change that unless the story that's out there about you is more reflective of who you are. That's one of the things we urge people to think about, is when we say you should have an online presence that's reflective of who you authentically are, that doesn't mean a high volume of participation is necessarily what's needed. And so I don't think every CEO should be on social media, and that every executive should have their own blog. I fear the world where that happens, because of course One thing is there would be a lot of uninteresting stuff out there because people are more focused on the quantity, right, than they are the quality of what they're saying. But also, you would have a lot of people who commit to doing it, then not have the time, and then you start having a bunch of stuff that the executive's not even involved with writing or reading or doing anything with, that's being floating around out there in their name. And I don't think that necessarily gets us anywhere. And I'm not saying that you can't have a team who would help you do the research and put things together and share articles with you that you might want to share, but ultimately you need the buy-in of the person themselves if that's going to be authentic.